Well, hello and welcome. Thanks for joining me. This is Ros Jones, your business coach with my weekly podcast show, Bold Business Bits, coming to you from Yorkshire. This is where I have a great conversation with a phenomenal female business boss. We share some of the bold stuff they do, lessons they've learnt, adversities they've overcome, and the fun they have. And then I'll be dipping into my toolkit and sharing a top tip. Business can be lonely, so make sure you join us each week and be part of our show. Well, hello and welcome to episode 28 of Bold Business Bits podcast show. This is Ros Jones and today I'm joined by Natalie Foster of North Yorkshire Law. Natalie's had an amazing and fascinating journey so far. From A-level law to a career in department stores, banking and back to the law, she also raised a family and returned to full-time university education before helping to revive and grow the law firm where she's now an equity partner. We talk about sacrifices we make to find our true path, the importance of tenacity and getting out of our comfort zone, among other things, working together as a team to make things happen, and also how new routes to entering the law have made it more accessible to others. Listen on and enjoy our show. Hi, Natalie.
Hello, Ros.
So, Natalie, we've known each other a short while, but I know that you weren't always in North Yorkshire Law. So, can you tell us a bit about how you came to be there?
Certainly, my journey is unorthodox, to say the least. But however, I feel that we wouldn't be in the place that we are in now had it not been for the route that has been taken. I initially studied A-level law, leaving school and going to sixth form, and always wanted to progress in a career in law. And in the late 90s, when I was at sixth form college, for one reason or another, was unable to move to university and complete a law degree. And I wasn't hugely au fait on any other particular route at becoming a solicitor or lawyer at that time. Initially, took a couple of jobs doing various bits and pieces.
Did you always want to be a lawyer then?
Yes, I did. Yeah, it was something that I always aspired to become when I was young, kind of teenage years, and something that my parents believed I could achieve. However, I think at that period in my life, I just wasn't ready.
Yeah.
I wasn't wholly focused on the long-term goals personally, and certainly wasn't ready to commit to a university degree and move away from home. So I always worked full-time, sometimes working 2 and 3 jobs at a time. Started working in the retail sector and was very fortunate after working for a couple of concessions and department stores.
In Scarborough?
It was in Helmsley. I worked for Browns of York.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I was then promoted to concession manager, where I had 3 small businesses that I essentially managed within this large department store. So from quite a young age, early 20s, I was liaising with multiple parties, namely the business owners, managing their product, sales, performance, etc., marketing, speaking to the host, store manager, and obviously dealing with clients. Started off rather humbly, was offered a management position at Arcadia Limited, which was in their flagship store in York, which was the largest Topshop shop that they had in the UK, apart from Oxford Circus, and ended up running 12 concessions on their first floor of their store, liaising with Oxford Circus and going and visiting there and cascading information, bringing their various different product displays back with us and helping run a team of staff. Fantastic training. It's where I learned the most, I believe. It's my first introduction to certain, golden nuggets that you have, such as working smartly, measuring performance, creating reports, hosting meetings, etc. So it was my first professional role in which I was part of a wider management team. After a couple of years in York, wanted to purchase our first property, newly married. York, as you know, has quite a high starting point for property price. So we moved back to Scarborough in order to purchase our first home. And I was fortunate enough to be given the business manager's role in Barclays Bank.
Wow, that's a bit of a change.
Well, you could say that. It was a change in that the product and the service that we were selling was different.
Yeah.
But the skills were completely transferable. It was a large conglomerate company. I was very used to complying with policy procedure that was set by people I've never met, HR department, etc. So I didn't find the transition that stressful. Obviously, undertook a large amount of training in financial products and services, which I then, continued to do so for over a decade, both in business banking and personal banking. My role within that company was to cover an area which was Whitby, Scarborough, York, Malton. We had a large rural area with quite sparse footfall in comparison with somewhere like Leeds. So we had to do a lot more travel to get the business that we required. Was to open business accounts, help clients create business plans, apply for lending using submissions, liaise with underwriters. So I became rather au fait with things like risk, security, what was then data protection, now GDPR, FCA regulated, then FSA regulated, all of which have stood me in good stead really to move into the legal sector. But of course, was absolutely aware that the actual topic itself needed to be studied in order to ensure that I was dealing with clients properly. I did that for a long time. It served me well. Within that time frame, I had both of my children. And during that period, both myself and my husband had a period of assessing where we were in terms of the direction I wanted to go in professionally. And I made the leap then to go back to study.
Wow. Huge decision.
It was a huge decision. Natural? Yeah, it was.
So had you always had this, so all that time when you parked, did you just park the idea? Was it similar way in your mind all the time, or did it just, I want to do this?
I always knew that I hadn't arrived at where I was meant to be, but that I was on my way.
Yeah.
Bit indulgent really to say that, but I felt that there was more to come.
Yeah.
We had our family quite young. I was 27 when I had my daughter, but I think that's the best decision I ever made, because she's actually been privy to the the studying and the stress and the late nights and God knows what, and still is to a certain degree, but it's setting her up for the sacrifices that she wants to be aware of if she wants to acquire any certain standard of life, really. Yeah.
So how was that? So you with your young children, you gave up your job, or did you study part-time, or how did it work?
So, I had a number of options. It was when Coventry University had set up. It had no campus. It had next to no tutors. It had no...
I remember that.
Yeah. When it was hosted in a freezing cold room in the spa. Yeah. So not long ago at all, really. So, I enrolled onto the Law and Practice degree, the BA. Obviously extremely nervous, but very excited to start the subject. And, don't regret a minute of it. It was fantastic. It was hard. In answer to your question, I worked 3 days a week for a number of years because of the fact that I was a mum of 2 young children. In year 1, I didn't have a job. I focused wholly on study. It was difficult. Financially, it was a change, but we got through it. And in year 2, obviously, as a graduate, certainly a mature graduate, or undergraduate, should I say, you start thinking about your CV again. Let's see what our options are to acquire some legal, practical knowledge in a firm.
Yeah. So where did you get that?
So I sent my CV out to various places in the surrounding area of Scarborough. There aren't a great deal of them, but was willing to take what was available. Yeah. I didn't hear anything back initially. I got a couple of very pleasant emails from a couple of individuals who gave me great feedback on my CV and said they weren't in a position to take me on, but I could do voluntary work. Well, I didn't need voluntary work. I needed paid employment.
Yeah, exactly.
And I did feel that perhaps, without meeting me, it would have been difficult for me to have given across what I could bring to the table.
Yeah.
Met with my now partner after a couple of email exchanges and was offered some paralegal in-house, some legal assistant work initially in the litigation department of North Yorkshire Law.
Fantastic. And the rest is history.
Well, it is, isn't it? Isn't. I was there for a number of months and, North Yorkshire Law at that time, however it was ticking over nicely, had come off the radar somewhat in terms of its brand presence. Yeah. And it didn't, at the time, have a clear plan as to which direction it was going in other than sustaining what it was doing. I was used to a very fast-paced environment, always thinking about the next goal, planning for it, marketing it, etc. So it was at times difficult for me to hold back, and I didn't hold back, which, you know, both myself and Richard established this working relationship whereby I'd say, what about this? What do you think about that? And he would give us some feedback, and we started putting a few wheels in motion, and very soon saw some very positive changes within the firm.
Were you still a paralegal at this stage?
Well, legal assistant. I couldn't even call myself paralegal. I wasn't even, doing anything of substance other than supporting the senior fee earners at the time.
Yeah.
And I was studying. full time as well, working 25 hours a week. So my working week, usually was about 65, 70 hours, which was not amazing for a work-life balance, but, and parenting, which we all know what that's like. For some reason, things started to move in an extremely positive direction. We started to codify things, get our business plan together. And Richard then, because of my history with dealing with kind of lending and contract work, and we decided to jointly work on relaunching the commercial department, which had all but disappeared, really.
Right, yeah.
Not for any other reason other than there was no successor to drive it, and we'd lost somebody who was extremely valuable in that department prior to me arriving, unfortunately. And we put that in motion, and the commercial department within a year was turning over, a good 20% of the firms based on nothing, starting from nothing. So it was largely to do with me reconnecting with the banking connections that I had and saying, look, this is the role I'm in now, etc. Completed the degree, which was fantastic.
Were you one of the first graduates out of that?
We were the first cohort.
Okay, excellent.
We were the first cohort. Fortunately, our degree granted us exemptions from SILEX.
Right.
SILEX is the Chartered Institute of Legal Executives, which is a slightly different route, or a very different route, really, more vocational, work-based route. So I feel like I've had the best of both worlds. I've obtained level 6 education, but I've also acquired practical elements via the SILEX route that had I done an LLB and LPC without a job, wouldn't have had. So I do feel quite spoiled in that way. And that's the route I've decided to take. We've had such success in such a shorter space of time. The growth that we've had has been great. And obviously the profit that we've measured on the back of that, because obviously turnover means nothing unless you're fulfilling what you want to do. Reinvested it back in and put a lot into marketing and given back to the town, really. We've done a lot of corporate responsibility work, and it's been an amazing few years. I was asked to join the partnership. There's myself and Richard now. We had a partner retire but remains on as part of our team and is fundamental. And Richard asked me to be his business partner, and here we are.
Fantastic. So legal assistant to equity partner in 3 years?
In 3 years, yes.
Wonderful. What's the key to your success, Natalie?
I genuinely couldn't say. I think tenacious. I've got quite a lot of tenacity. If I feel very passionately about something, I don't really accept the fact that it can't be done, which isn't everybody's approach and can be irritating to some, but I'm not a fan of complacency or getting comfortable. I think it's good to push yourself out of your comfort zone, try new things, recognise your capability. Law is a highly regulated industry, and as such, needs to be respected in terms of the compliancy. But we've got a very large senior management team. We've got lawyers that have been with us for 40 years, 25 years. They've been practicing longer than I've been working. And they are fundamental in that. Everybody owns their different area of the business, and we work together as a team. So, whilst I bring the commerciality side and the, for want of a better term of phrase, the sales side, the marketing side, and the networking element to it, that only stands for so much. Without the team completing the work and then them having the support of the relevant training and the marketing being aligned with that, if one plate drops, it all falls apart. So we've found a really special group of people that all collaborate and make a success together.
Fantastic. What's been the biggest... I'm guessing there's been times of adversity in there. I don't think I've found anybody yet who's arrived in their position without having overcome some challenges along the way. So is there anything you'd like to share, any particular time of adversity that makes you maybe want to shudder a bit now when you think about it, but it feels so good to pull through it?
Yeah, I think like everybody, it's difficult to allow yourself to be vulnerable and exposed and admit that there was times where you thought, what the hell am I doing? And
Yeah.
can I do this? But we all feel like that. And I think it makes you more human for admitting it. When I first joined, I went to a couple of functions with very well respected, lovely people, lawyers, qualified, people that were en route to becoming a solicitor, which is a different route to what I'd undertaken. And at times have been met with a kind of cold shoulder or a, oh, right, so you're the new kid on the block situation. And I think the only thing I can say to anybody who ever feels like that, if they do ever want to take advice from somebody like me, would be, everybody's got a story. Everybody feels threatened or inadequate or insecure at some period, and it'll be for reasons that have nothing to do with the people in that room.
Absolutely.
It's all inner child stuff.
Yes.
It's all things that dad or mum said to you when you were younger or, teachers, whatever. And I think we've all just got to remember that no one person is more or less important than the other. It's just about fulfilling your potential. And I'm fortunate to say that I think we have a really healthy, good culture within the legal sector. There's a number of different firms. I'm very fortunate that I get on with a great deal of people. And although we're competitors, in inverted commas, everybody speaks to each other and shares ideas and goes to the same networking events. And I think we've got quite a special culture in the sector in this area, really. It's highly competitive in York, slightly different. I think Scarborough's got something a bit special, really, in that respect.
Have you come across, are there more women in in Scarborough firms, do you think? Or is that a reason, or is it just because we are here and we feel that we need to get together to fight together? Or?
I mean, just as an observation, I don't know the stats on it at all, but as an observation, there seems to be more accessibility for working mums to qualify in law.
Yeah.
By qualify, I mean become a practicing lawyer or a practicing paralegal, or indeed judges and advocates now. Mm-hmm. It's not limited to. People can now acquire audience rights of audience and be able to deliver in court and become advocates, which is huge, and even up to judges. I think that of late, it's not so much about sexism and whether or not somebody can do something because they're a male or female. It's about the logistics of it. The simple fact is that as mums, usually we are the people that sacrifice our professional career in order to prioritise our children. And that's a choice. In some instances, that's not the case. I chose to do that, and I'm glad that I did. I was fortunate that, I juggled probably far too much for a short period of time, but I see individuals now, male and female, who are doing the Silex route, who are working, earning money, paying a mortgage, parenting, taking the kids to football on a Sunday and studying when they've tucked them in up at bed. And it is allowing a group of people who may have only ever stayed in the role that they're in now, unlock what potential they have and allowing them to qualify as lawyers. And that's why I love the vocational route, because otherwise, such as a pupillage, barristers, it's unpaid. It's, and certainly with an LPC or even an LLB, it's a full-time degree, but, LPC, you have to commit to travelling to Leeds. The nearest place to travel is to Leeds. Parents can't usually give up a day. They either can't afford it or they don't have the means to. They've got school runs to do.
Yeah.
So it affords a lot of people access to higher education.
Yeah, that's brilliant, isn't it?
Male or female.
Yeah, so different from when I worked in law firms about 15 years ago. So things have changed for the better.
Yeah, I think so. Progress is progress, isn't it? And it's set to change again. There's the solicitors qualifying examination coming in, scheduled for 2021, which by all accounts is going to scrap the LPC route.
Oh, right.
Altogether. It won't in any way take away from people that are in the process of obtaining that. Yeah. I believe there's a handover period, but it will allow anybody that's studied to a certain level to do a conversion course, allowing them to become a solicitor, whereas previously or currently you do a GDL, which allows you to convert into a graduate diploma in law. You still have to complete your LPC. So it's good that, the Law Society and the industry as a whole are recognising that, things have to move on and they have to move forward, because law isn't an exclusive select industry. Everybody should be able to access it and practice it if they have the means and the drive and the knowledge to.
Thank you. And so what's the future for you or North Yorkshire Law or both? Or
I think keep doing what we're doing. We've got work to do with our Whitby project, which is moving in the right direction. Still growing our commercial division, which is going extremely well. We've now got a fully staffed office in York, which was opened a year ago. And we keep doing effective marketing and training our team and supporting the direction that we want to go by communication. Internal communication is everything.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
we have somebody who owns internal comms within the firm. There's 3 sites. There's only 2 of me and Richard. We have to make sure that all our staff feel listened to, cascaded to, supported, and that's ongoing. It doesn't stop when you qualify as a solicitor. You need that continual support. So that's why usually I'm beavering around like a mad person in between various offices, just checking everyone's feeling supported.
Cool. And can I just ask you one question, Natalie, before we finish, which is something I ask most of my phenomenal female business bosses guests. So I'm sitting here before you and I'm thinking about setting up a business, maybe in the law, but just setting up a business. What would your advice be?
For setting up? Wow, that's a question. I think make sure that whatever you do, you wholly believe in it.
Yeah.
Wholly believe in it and want to do it. If you're doing it just to make a bit of cash and move on to the next project, it's not going to drive you. It's not going to get you out of bed in the morning. It's not going to make you stay up late and finish off that report or get the passion in front of your staff when you're trying to have that meeting and instill that buy-in from them all. You have to believe in what you're doing.
Wise words indeed. So thank you very much, Natalie, for being my guest today. It's great to have you on here.
Thanks, Ross. Thank you.
In our conversation, Natalie said that internal comms is everything, and she and her business partner work hard to make sure that their people feel listened to and are supported. I completely agree that good, clear communication is vital. Not just in business, of course, but in all aspects of life, really. To get the best out of employees, leaders have to convey clear messages, have open and honest communication, and have to have a deep understanding and rapport with their people. Remember, Natalie spoke about being aware that everyone has a story. So it's having the skills to deliver your message, bearing in mind that your people are people, human beings. And of course, the greatest skill in communication is the ability to listen, really listen, to words, the tone of voice, body language, the situation, and your gut. We say that true communication is a response you get. So if you've communicated a message and are not getting the results you expected, then you probably want to rethink your communication because it obviously wasn't understood. How can you better convey your message? Well, there are lots of great books on how to create a culture for your business to maximise employee engagement and collaboration. I particularly like Kim Scott's Radical Candor, where she talks about her experience and learnings during her time at places like Apple and Google. Ultimately, as with all these things, it comes down to an individual's willingness to look in the mirror and really see how our own communication style impacts those around us. We need to be willing to change our behaviour and learn new ways of working with our team. It can be difficult and tough. You might need to ask your people for feedback on your communication style. You might not necessarily like what you hear. But it's that ability to be vulnerable and humble and accept true communication. Or you can get a coach to help you. I work with executives and teams to help with this. One of the tools I always start with is DISC, D-I-S-C. It's a behaviour profiling tool that helps with understanding your own communication style and how to adapt it to different personality types to get the best out of them. I've talked about DISC on earlier episodes of this podcast, but if you want to know more, please just get in touch. Remember this, a leader's job is to communicate, so get really good at it. Thanks for listening. This has been Ros Jones on Bold Business Bits podcast show. Please subscribe to my show and I look forward to hearing from you again shortly. Bye for now. This has been your Ros Jones Bold Business Bits podcast show. If you'd like any further information about anything we've discussed today, please just get in touch. go to businesscoachingyorkshire.co.uk. Please join me again next week when I'll be speaking with another phenomenal female business boss with bold business bits. And remember to subscribe to my show. Thanks for listening.